Hey everyone, what is up? I've got about, believe it or not, about 96 minutes before work, maybe even 66 minutes if I can work something out. The reason I'm here early on this Saturday morning is the bus schedule kind of changed up a lot for Saturdays. Basically, Saturdays now, the bus comes and does a route every 3 hours instead of every hour and a half or something like that. It's every 3 hours. So yeah, if you have no other choice to take the bus to your job, which is close by, you have to wait a couple of hours. Now, I could have easily got a ride for my family, but the point is, my mom's got the grandkids over. She went from work to go get them and then went shopping, and she works in Livermore, California. So yeah, you kind of understand maybe why I didn't want her to have to get up this morning and take me to work or anything, and because of the fact that, well, I want her to rest a little bit. And let's just put it this way: with certain kids, you can trust them to be on their own for a couple of hours, for about a half hour, an hour or so. But sometimes you can't really trust them because of the fact that, you know, they're at certain ages. And if you're a fan of MLP, you know, they're in that generation that may or may not understand the whole, you know, fandom support deal, bronies, Pegasus deal, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean, I could lock my door, but we have our cat out and about, and, you know, she's not too sure about the 13-year-old, and so, you know, she needs a place to hide if she can. And, you know, just long story short, I'd rather just, you know, go and take the bus and wait a couple hours if I have to, or wait an hour or so before I start work. And it's nothing new to me because I've done it before. You know, I've been dropped off an hour before. I've been dropped off to where I have about an hour or so of work to go. An hour of work before basically I've been dropped off to where I've had an hour or so before I start work, and sometimes I have an hour and a half before I start work and stuff like that. But anyway, that's why I'm doing this video, to kind of kill some time, but also kind of do an on-screen version of an audio I did a couple of days ago, which I have yet, but I plan to, when I get home today, create and upload onto YouTube. And what that video is that's going to be the audio version of my reply, just like this is an on-camera version reply to ToonKritic's video he did about a year ago called The Art of Reformation. Now, what I talked about in the audio video, and I'll mention them here, and ToonKritic touched upon this. Silver Quill, along with, you know, MLP-Silver Quill, along with I Love KP a lot, have talked about this. I think Firebrand talked about this. You know, just about anybody that's a fan, an overall fan of the show, of the franchise, of the characters, just about anybody that's a part of the brony Pegasus community and the overall Friendship is Magic community of fans, have all kind of voiced their concern and their criticism about this. Now, there are those on one side of the coin that basically understand why reformations happen, why villains are reformed the way they are. You know, why they're not kept as antagonists, or at least put in a situation to where you're going to slowly reform them, but you're still keeping them kind of antagonistic. And that side of the coin there, those fans, like I say, they understand that the show, at the end of the day, is called Friendship is Magic. And the lesson and moral of every episode or every story arc is to try to make friends, try to make the best of things, and try to make friends with just about anybody you can make friends with. Try to give certain people a second chance, or open their eyes to see exactly what good they can do instead of bad. So, just decided to black out on me. That's it, some circuits. Sorry for that interruption. I don't know what happened there. It's like I cut a sudden blackout or something. That was weird. But like I said, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, they know what the show is originally intended for. The original message is intended for, and that is try to make friendship. That friendship is always going to prevail in the end. Now, like I said, that's one section of the fan base that understands that. They see that. You know, they can, hold on for a sec. There we go. Just got to brighten up my computer. You know, they could see that. They can accept that. But on the other side of the fence, you have fans that are like, you know, enough's enough. You know, it's like enough is enough with the Reformations. It's like, we get it. You want to reform. You know, to them it's like, okay, we get it. You know, you want to reform certain antagonists or semi-antagonist ponies or dislikable characters into good guys. We get it. But the way they look at it is, they may understand that, but what they also look at is, you know, you can't be, the show is being repetitive in doing so. And by being repetitive, it's not allowing for character growth, especially when it comes to its villains. It comes to its villains overall. That they're not allowing the villains to grow as villains. You know, the only exception so far in their eyes right now is Chrysalis and possibly Tyrek and possibly, and I mean possibly, the Storm King, depending on the outcome of the movie. Those are the only characters that, you know, when they look at them, when they look at them, have the potential for character growth as villains, as true antagonists. You know, then they have yet to be reformed. And to me, one of the final straws for the fan base, if you will, one of the final straws in the past year or so, in the past few seasons or so, was Starlight Glimmer. Starlight Glimmer was the last straw for a lot of the fans, because it's like, potentially here you had this antagonist, this villain, that pretty much, whose story arc pretty much spanned all of season 5. You know, you began season 5 with her, you ended season 5 with her, and in between you hinted at the fact that she was following and stalking Twilight and her friends almost every place they went, so she can be ready, so she could be ready and better prepared to unleash her revenge plan on them in the season finale, or at least on Twilight in the season finale. But even though that had a lot of great potential, the final straw for the fans that have kind of felt that this is getting repetitive is when Starlight at the end of season 5 got reformed, and by basically getting don't know what that was about. But anyway, but basically by getting reformed, if you will, she also gets taken under Twilight's wing as her first student. So basically, when I say that Starlight could have been, basically it's kind of like that last straw, it's because of the fact that potentially you had a great antagonistic villain and rival and foe, and yet you throw that all away to turn her into Twilight's student and apprentice, because pretty much she's going to be like the foundation to start, or maybe start a new incarnation of MLP down the line, or something like that, But anyway, to a lot of fans, that was like the last and final straw. It's like, you know, why, you know, it's like, again, they could understand taking a character like with the CMNC, the Cutie Mark Crusaders case, you know, taking a character like, you know, Diamond Tiara, and finally using an episode to reveal, you know, why she's the way she is, because she doesn't know what a Cutie Mark is telling her. Okay, fine. You bring her arc full circle. You kind of show that her getting ponies or colts and foils to do what she wants, that's her purpose, but do it for the right things. Do it for the right reasons, you know, that's her purpose. Okay, fine, we get that. But but that, you know, that's one thing. It's like, okay, we can accept Diamond Tiara because pretty much she's a foil, she's a filly, and she still has a lot, you know, growing wise, she still has a lot of character development to go with. So for her arc to come full circle, that is basically, they can accept that. You know, it's like, okay, Diamond Tiara may have been you know, they can accept that, but it's like, you know, basically what I'm getting at, and I know I feel like I'm being distracted here, I do apologize for that. Basically, they feel that even though they could accept something like Diamond Tiara being reformed and everything, because she is just a filly still, she's still young, she still has a lot of growth to go, and she's at that stage where she wants to know what her cutie mark means and is telling her and stuff like that. For that story arc to come full circle, they can understand her reformation. You know, they can understand her reformation. But when it comes, like I said, to a character like Starlight, to them, the final straw was you build a whole arc, a whole season-long arc around her. You begin a season with her, you end a season with her. You show her basically stalking and following Twilight in the main six to prep and get her plan for revenge ready for the finale, and yet you decide to throw that all away by having her turn good, by having her get reformed, thanks to, I think, as I Love KP a lot said in her collab with Silver Quill, you know, it took a speech from Twilight and a showing of what the future could really look like if she goes down this path, if she keeps doing what she's doing. You know, if she keeps doing what she's doing, it's like, really? You couldn't just keep it going for a little longer? You know, a lot of fans basically didn't like that. They couldn't accept that. They couldn't, you know, look at the fact that, oh, sorry, I thought it was the other way around. Excuse me. Sorry for that. Yeah, sorry, I thought my camera was the other way around, so you were looking at the trees and all that when I was talking. I apologize for that. But anyway, you know, to them it's like you took Starlight, and it's like who you dedicated a season to in her arc, and basically threw it away to reform her and make her Twilight student and apprentice. You know, that's why a lot of people are not on board with this whole Reformation deal at times. You know, it's like, you know, to them enough is enough. It's like, okay, we can accept you doing that to Discord. Okay, fine, but here's the thing. Here's the reason why they accept Discord's Reformation. Because he still has a bit of antagonistic characteristics about him. That basically he's the kind of reformed character that's not totally reformed, but just enough to where he could still be antagonistic if he has to be, and he could easily fall back into that. He can easily fall back into that. Like I said, he can easily fall back into that. As you know, when you take a look at characters that have potential to be true antagonistic foes, villains, or rivals, one that comes to mind for a lot of them is Trixie. You know, he was a character when she got introduced, was introduced as a potential rival for Twilight, not once but twice. And what happens at the end of like the first and second appearance? What happens? She ends up getting reformed. Well, semi. She basically is in the same category as Discord. She's kind of reformed. She's kind of reformed, but to the point that she still has her antagonistic tendencies. Like, she now knows what to do. She now knows that, basically, she now knows, you know, she's now basically one of the good guys, or good gals, but still is prone to antagonistic ways, because mostly she has that self-absorbed ego of hers, and that smart mouth of hers, that would sometimes, where she likes to kind of tell it like it is, or kind of anticize, and you know, kind of manipulate or anticize even her friends' ends and stuff. But she still has a good heart. She still has a good heart to her. And again, she knows what's right from wrong. But she, again, like Discord, still has those antagonistic tendencies, which is why she's not totally reformed, but she's getting there. She's getting there. And you know, those are two, you know, like reformations that fans could probably accept. All sides could accept, like, okay, you know, she is like Trixie. You know, like Trixie, okay, she is good now. Fine, we get it. You know, Trixie, she is good now. We get it. But she's not totally good. Same with Discord. And heck, you even look at Starlight, and yeah, Starlight's starting to become more of a, as some would say, a Twilight copy, a Twilight clone, or basically the next in line to lead her own group of main 6 characters. And yet she still has tendencies. Take a look at season 6. You know, we all understand that when somebody does wrong, they either steal, they commit a crime and all that, that instead of going behind bars, what happens? What happens? They end up being put on probation. That's right, they end up being put on probation. Sometimes the most lesser punishment is probation. And what probation means is, if you do anything wrong, if you do the slightest thing wrong, you will always end up behind bars, or you'll probably end up behind bars as the next punishment. In Starlight's case, her probationary period was season 6, because she still at times in certain episodes would fall back into doing certain things the way she knew how to, and basically it would cause her to lose the trust of the main 6 at times, if not other MLP characters, because she still had the tendencies to fall back into those things, and at times she could be easily manipulated into, you know, acting the certain ways that she shouldn't. You know, when she first meets Trixie, you know, Trixie kind of manipulates her a little bit, but also, in a sense, opens her eyes to make her realize, look, you are Twilight student, but Does Twilight truly let you do things on your own? Does she truly let you do things on your own? Does she truly trust you to make friends on your own? And like I said, Trixie, being in that same category as Discord, still has an antagonistic tendencies, but one of her antagonistic tendencies is telling it like it is. And when she points out to Starlight that, hey, maybe Twilight doesn't trust you, doesn't think you can make friends on your own, maybe with the exception of one, because you guys were in the same area, and it was more of a reconnect. But when it comes to new friends, she doesn't trust you. So, Starlight had those. So you could look at, Starlight, Trixie, like I say, still having those antagonistic tendencies, mostly to tell it like it is. Basically said to Starlight, look, what Twilight's doing for you is great, but does she fully trust you still? But does she fully trust you to make friends on your own and not without her help? So when one thinks about it, Twilight, so when one thinks about it, you could look at Starlight in season 6 and look at portions of season 6 as being part of a probationary period for her. Like certain episodes that focused on her falling back into certain ways that she only knew which were the only ways she knew about. You could consider being part of her. You could consider being part of her probationary period, because she basically was still falling victim. She was still easily falling victim to these ways that she knew, these wrong ways. And by doing so, she was losing the distrust of the main 6. Well, mostly 5 of the main 6, because she looked like she wasn't going to change. She was easily falling victim. She was going back to her old ways. So when people look at Starlight's Reformation and they say that's kind of like the final straw for them, you got to look at the fact that season 6 served as a probationary period for her, and that she wasn't totally reformed yet, but season 6 was sort of a character building year for her, a character building season, because she was trying to slowly redeem herself and make up for what she did. But at the same time, by being a character building season for her, it was also showing that she had the tendencies to fall back into her old ways to get things done. So, one could understand how people feel about the whole Starlight being that last straw. But again, when you take a look at, characters like Diamond Tiara and how she was first introduced and presented, and then you have the episode with the CMNCs where they got the cutie marks and they realized is the true meaning behind it, because they helped Diamond Tiara, of all characters, come around and realize what her true meaning of her cutie mark meant, and helped her kind of reform. And kind of helped her be reformed a little bit. It showed, in my opinion, it showed, in my opinion, that, not all the characters, it showed, in my opinion, I know I'm getting a little off track here because I'm getting distracted as we get later into the mid-morning, things start happening a bit more. But, like I said, Diamond Tiara, was, like I said earlier, one of those exceptions to where fans could understand and accept that. But to them, Starlight, I think, was the final straw. But like I said, the biggest thing about this art of Reformation that people go back and forth on, fans, bronies, Pegasus, and all that go back and forth on, is when is enough enough? When does the writing staff, from Megan McCarthy to M.A. Larson to Jason Teresen to Christine and Joanne, the lady writers, and anybody else, when do they come to realize enough is enough on the Reformations, and that you need to leave certain antagonistic, villainous characters as they are, because in a sense, letting them be who they are without reformation or reformations allow the characters to grow even more so. You know, you don't have to worry about the character. You know, you don't have to worry about the character ever being reformed, because if you're going to reform them, at least you're building to that moment. You're giving them that character development and build that they need to get to that moment. And when you do decide to go there, it's more appreciated, it's more accepted, because you're not hot-shotting it, you know, like many people said they did with Starlight. You know, many people said they hot-shotted it with Starlight, right? Even though they kind of, in a sense, spent season 7 building to it, season 5 building to it, a lot of people felt that her reformation was too quick, that they hot-shotted it, and that it should have not been that way. And that's why a lot of people look at her reformation at the end of season 5, and basically her redemption season, her probationary season in season 6, as being too quick, as being too like, well, you know, just this came out of nowhere. You know, why didn't they take the time to build upon it? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And, you know, it's like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And that to me is where, you know, and that to me is where a lot of fans, like I said earlier, have had it up to here. Now, with the possibility that a certain new pony in a certain movie could be heading down that path, with all the hints and teases that the trailers and merchandise and whatever, and word of mouth or whatever, you know, has been going around and indicating that, to a lot of them, that would be, you know, to a lot of them, you know, like I said, those that accept and understand why these reformations happen, they understand it because they realize what the show has always, what the title of the show is. Friendship is magic, and the moral is try to make friends with others, try to give friendship a chance, and try to extend the hand of friendship, or the hoof of friendship, and try to help those out to those that you feel need it, to those that would benefit from it. And like I said earlier, you know, and it's like I said, there's that side of the fan base that understands and accepts that, because that's what the moral of the show is. That's the name of the show. But then again, there are those that understand that too, but feel enough's enough. And then, like I said earlier, you think they felt Starlight was like the final straw, okay, when to this whole Reformation deal, you know, if not the entire changeling race at the end of season 6. If a certain new pony, due to all the hints and teases and words of mouth and merchandising stuff like that, has, you know, indicated at or hinted towards for the movie, if this certain new unicorn pony is going in the direction that many feel the writing staff is going to take her in for the movie, you know, if you think Starlight was the last straw for them, Tempest, Shadow, if she's taken in the direction that they feel she's going to be taken in, that itself will be the last straw as well, if not the last straw, because now you're suddenly taking this reformation from the small screen to the big screen, and you're taking one of the most edgy, badass characters you've put on the show or put in the franchise so far, especially from a same species pony perspective, and you're turning her around and making her into this reformed character that, you know, nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to see that happen. You know, that nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see that happen. And if it does happen, like I said, for a lot of them, that would be the last straw. But then, if that's not the last straw, you take a look at the animatronic that was shown for season 8, and whether or not they hotshot this in the premiere, or they do what they did with Starlight, and they give it a season-long run to the finale of season 8. If they do the Chrysalis, who was shown to be the antagonist in season 8 at the premiere and maybe at the end if they do a season-long run, if Chrysalis gets reformed at the end of season 8, then that too could be the last straw for a lot of fans, and they're getting sick and tired of this repetitive Reformation. They're getting sick and tired of it. Because if Chrysalis ends up in that category, it's like, to them it's going to be like, what's the point of having villains? What's the point of even putting antagonistic villains into this show if every time they're around you're just going to reform them every chance you get? It doesn't make sense. Now, like I said earlier, some may accept a Chrysalis's Reformation a lot easier, because at least you've been decently, properly building to that moment throughout the series run. I mean, you use the end of season 3, season 2 to build towards it. You use the end of season 6 and now possibly season 8 to build towards it. So you're doing a decent job with her. So if she gets reformed, at least I believe a lot of people that feel the Reformation is repetitive might be more accepting of it, because at least you gave it proper build. You did a proper build to it. You gave it a proper build, as well as the fact that, sorry for the bad connection there, as well as the fact that you gave it a proper build, but you also gave Chrysalis's character proper build as well, because of the fact that you kind of got that hint that she could be that she could end up in that direction at the end of season 6, when Starlight was trying to extend that proof of friendship to her, and she almost took it. I should say, before slapping the hand away. To me, I think a lot of fans would be more accepting of it, because it would have more of a proper build, more proper character build and development for her period, and it wouldn't be rushed. And the overall thing is, it wouldn't have been hot-shotted or rushed. It wouldn't have been hot-shotted or rushed, if you will, in the story. So, so a lot of fans might be more accepting of that, but like I said, the reason a lot feel that could be, in a sense, the final straw when it comes to the Reformation, if not Tempest, but Chrysalis, it's because, like I said earlier, what's the point of having villains if you're just going to reform them? And you're going to have fans questioning, who's next to be reformed? Turek? Why? I mean, heck, you want to know one Reformation that got fans mad? And what could have been the last straw? And it didn't even happen in the show. It happened in a comic book follow-up to the season 3 finale. You know what that was? That was Sombra. King Sombra got reformed, not in the show, but in the comic. They did a follow-up, basically, where a lot of the smaller, lesser antagonistic foes and rivals of the main 6 gathered up the remaining pieces of Sombra, used the spell to resurrect him, and for what? to have him be reformed at the end of the Siege arc. And not a lot of fans were happy about that, because yes, even though it wasn't the show, one thing they will say is that it wasn't in the show, it was in the comics, he still got reformed. And to them, it's like, what was the point of even having him as a villain if ultimately, even if it's in the comics, you were going to reform him? It didn't make any sense to them. It never did and never will. You know, it's like, you know, the fan base overall, like I say, they can be divided on many aspects, and this is one of them as well. The fans that feel that enough's enough with it, you can't blame them, because they're like, how else are you going to have a good show or a good program, a good story arc and all that, if you keep going in this direction on a repetitive basis? Now, like I said, there are some exceptions. You know, for example, Luna, even though she's kind of redeemed herself a lot throughout the seasons, her redemption arc was still going on throughout the seasons. Her redemption arc had been going on since the beginning of season 1, throughout season 2, and all the way ultimately to season 5. Why? Because from a proper standpoint, they wanted her, from a proper story arc standpoint, to kind of help have her going through all these things that she did, helping out the CMNCs and stuff, to help her kind of slowly redeem herself back to who she once was before. To kind of help her slowly redeem herself back to who she was before she became corrupted as Nightmare Moon. So, to me, when I look at that scenario, so that in a sense is as unusual of a proper redemption build as it was. That's one way fans accept, okay, at least, you know, they did some kind of proper build, even though loosely as it was, to having Luna redeem herself, and allowed the episode that was called, I think, Do Ponies Dream of Sheep or something like that, be the conclusion, or be the final full circle conclusion that she needed to redeem herself as a character. So, in a way, it kind of helped her. So in a way, that's sort of looking at how a proper redemption build is. Now, with that said, is the art of Reformation getting a little too, is Reformation in the show getting a little too repetitive? In a sense, yes. But I think it all depends on how it's done. You know, if it's hot-shotted too quickly in the course of a season, then yeah, you could argue that. But if it's properly done over time, even if it's loosely done, in the cases of Luna, and possibly you want to throw Diamond Tiara in there, and maybe in a sense Discord and Trixie, if it's properly done to the point that they're reformed completely, or they're kind of reformed but they still have those antagonistic sides to, moments to them, then yes, there's no doubt people, fans, bronies, Pegasisters and all that can accept it. But here's the thing. But here's the thing. If it's hot-shotted, like I said, in the course of an episode, or like I said, through the course of a season, they won't. They'll have a valid reason to complain. But if it's properly done, which I believe they're going to do with Chrysalis, if that's the direction they're going to go in for next season, then, you know, at least they did it, at least it's being done in a very proper character building, character developing way, because you've seen her go through all these moments, go through all these situations, and even despite the fact that she lost her kingdom and her queen status, well, kind of her queen status, at the end of season 6, she still refuses to accept friendship. And if they plan to make her do that finally in season 8, whether it's the beginning or at the finale, then a proper build to it, then basically by having it done then basically building towards it the way they have will be more well received, because at least you have built to it. You've given her that character building and development that is needed. Now, yes, a lot of fans may not be happy if that happens, and that's fine. That's okay. That's their opinion. That's the criticism that they want to give it. You know, like I said, some fans are not going to be happy with... Hold on. Like I said, not a lot of fans are going to be happy with the possibility of a certain broken horns unicorns direction at the, in the upcoming movie. They may not be happy with that and feel that could be the last straw, and that's okay too. That's their opinion. But my thought process is, I look at it like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I look at the fact that the movie, in a sense, if it's gonna be about 99 minutes long, if the movie is 99 minutes long, about 100 minutes long, an episode is 22 to 25 minutes long, okay? You are essentially looking at a 5-part episode, if you will, that you're looking basically at a 5-part episode that has done this in the past, depending on the show and franchise it's been based around. And by doing it beforehand, in a 5-part episode, a character like, let's say, Tempest could go in that direction, because at least you're spending 4 or 3 of those episodes building her character, getting us to know her character, and then when the time's right, you decide to pull the trigger in the direction you want to go in with her. So, not a lot of people would be too thrilled with it, but at least you gave her proper build. And if you view the movie as being like a 5-parter, if you will, a 5-part miniseries for Friendship is Magic, then you could probably look at it in the sense that each part is slowly building to that moment if they decide to go down it. And if there's any hint and indication from what we have seen, from trailers, from movie trailers to word of mouth, to just overall hints and clues of what they're going to do with her, then you have to admit that even though that might be the direction, that at least they're going to give her proper build. They're going to give her a proper build to the moment that is needed to that moment. And I think, honestly, it might be worth it. Again, depending on how they get there, if they get there. Now, again, I know I sounded like I rambled on a bit here, and I do apologize. But in conclusion, I will say this. Alright, in conclusion, I will say this. Yes, I do understand how people feel at the repetitiveness of Reformation. Sometimes Reformation is not necessary. But in this day and age of political correctness and all that, it's bound to happen. I mean, Silver Quill even said that IDW did it briefly with Megatron of all characters in the Transformers comic. So, so if that could happen, who's to say what else could happen? But the point is, folks, when one looks at Reformation. Again, I can understand where people are coming from when they feel that when they say they are sick and tired of the repetitiveness of it, and they just need to let certain antagonistic villains be villains and let the character grow from there, to where if you decide to do a Reformation, at least you're giving their character time to grow and be developed before you go in that direction. And at least you're not constantly using the same trope over and over again. But on the other side of the coin, like I said earlier, I can understand how fans feel when they have to point out to those fans on the other side that feel it's been repetitive, the Reformation's been repetitive, to where they have to remind them, remember, the show is called Friendship, it's magic. Moral of the story, and the moral of the episodes and stories, and if not the arcs, is friendship. That friendship is magic, and friendship can overcome anything. That if you give someone friendship or offer friendship to someone, you know, anything is possible. Anything is possible. So I can understand it, like I said, from that side of the coin when they try to remind them of that. Now, again, it depends though overall on the writing staff. You know, does Megan McCarthy, Jason Teresen, M.A. Larson, the lady writers, do they want to keep going in that direction? Or, as they have done with Fame and Misfortune and Slice of Life and other certain episodes, do they want to acknowledge the fans and say, hey, we hear you, so we'll do what we can to try to switch things up, make things more interesting? We'll just have to wait and see, but the way I look at it, you know, again, I can understand how fans feel. I can understand how they feel things are being too repetitive. You know, they're getting repeated too much, and that they need to kind of come to a stop. They need to come to an end, and that you need to just let, you know, villains be villains, and you need to let villains be villains, and you know, and if you're gonna reform them, give them time, give them proper character development and build to that moment, so that at least when you know it's gonna happen, at least it's going to have, hopefully, a decent payoff and a decent reasoning. And it's not hot-shotted like everything else. So, hopefully, in the end, that may happen. I think right now the best two candidates for that to happen with, if it does happen, is Tempest and Chrysalis. I think those are the two best candidates, because if it happens, at least through the movie perspective and throughout a series and several seasons perspective, they would have had proper build and development for the character. You know, there wouldn't be no hot-shotting or anything like that. You would have given it proper build for them to, you know, for the Reformation to be more accepted, you know, by the overall community, Brony, Pegasus, the overall fan-based community. You would have had it more accepted because of the fact that you gave it proper build. You gave the two characters you gave it proper build. You gave the characters plenty of development and build for the character development and build for them, period. And thus, if you decide to go in that direction with them, it makes the Reformation payoff a lot better and a lot more accepted, because at least you see all the trial and errors and ups and downs they've gone through to finally get to that moment that you want to see them get, that you know possibly is going to happen if it does. So overall though, that's all really I have to say in my reply to ToonKritic's Art of Reformation video, my on-camera version. I do apologize for any kind of bad connections, and I do apologize for you guys just seeing the trees and all that instead of me for a little bit. So I do apologize for that, but overall, those are just my thoughts in my reply to his video. I know this reply has been long, but like I said earlier, I'm trying to kill some time before I can try to start work early and try to get off early, because I got to catch a bus by at least 1:07 to get home. So, but really, that's all I have to say. You guys, let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like. Let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on the art of Reformation when it comes to the MLP series or any kind of series? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. Thank you all for those that watch this Saturday morning live. I do appreciate it. Again, leave your comments below. And thank you all to those that watch post live after it's been done and uploaded. Again, let me know what you guys think down below. But overall, that's all I'm going to say on it. And ToonKritic, if you're watching and listening, when I put the audio version up too, which will be shorter than this, I would like to hear what your thoughts are as well. And again, guys, take your time with both of these. I know they're long, but I'd like to hear from what you guys have to say. And really, that's all I have to say on the subject. And that's about it. So until next time, God bless, take care, and I am out. I'm gonna go back into work, see if I can start early. If not, just relax for a bit before I have to start. So peace out, God bless, done.